Forza Horizon 6 has more car customization than ever before. I've seen everything from drifting limos to I don't even know what this is. In this video, I'm going to attempt to create my own ridiculous tune. Now to pick a car. Forza Horizon 6 has a ton of cars, some sillier than others, and some come with more upgrading potential than others. There are classics like the POP50 and the Reliant Supervan, which I'm sure most Forza fans have seen plenty enough of. So I'm going to look for something a little bit different. Not knowing much about it, I thought the Nissan S-Cargo looked silly, and I figured it would be a good one to mess around with. Now I wanted to make this car as fast as possible, so I put all of the best upgrades on it, and when upgrading I noticed there weren't many additional parts to choose from. So this doesn't have a super high top end, but it was probably enough to work with. The first tune I wanted to try making was a drag racing tune. Just to get a benchmark, I tested it before touching the tuning menu, and here's how it went. Before tuning, this car got a time of 9.126 seconds, and it holds up pretty well against these other random people who raced me. To get started, I tweaked around in the tuning menu. On drag tires, the default tire pressure is at the lowest setting, which is ideal for fast acceleration. I kept the rear suspension a bit softer so the rear wheels could have a bit more grip. And here's my second test with just the adjusted springs. I even messed up a gear shift and it was still faster than the first test at 9.107 seconds. Now, I'm not going to show all of my tests since I'll just be making a lot of little adjustments. But here are all the adjustments that I did make. For the anti-roll bars, I softened the front wheels and I stiffened the rear wheels. And for alignment, I flattened everything out. What I'm mostly doing here is adjusting for launch and top speed. Because my launch stability is so high, I could get away with pushing more power to the rear. Now here I realized that adding adjustable aero to the car was probably just slowing it down, so I went back and I removed it. And at this point I was reaching diminishing returns with my tuning. But there's still one thing I haven't touched. Gears. Doing this takes a lot of trial and error. Essentially, I needed to max out my max acceleration without hurting my top speed too much or redlining before the end of the strip. I shifted my final drive towards acceleration and tested until it seemed like it got pretty close to its top speed. I tuned the final drive until it was about where I wanted it, and then I tuned the individual gears. I tried to tweak it so that the final gear was close to its peak by the end of the quarter mile. Finally, I hit a good sweet spot. And this was the best time that I got. This final tune lowered the time by 0.4 seconds from the stock tune. This thing ended up being pretty quick. The biggest limiting factor was the engine, as there weren't many upgrade options for it. And obviously this thing has the aerodynamics of a brick. It may not be a POP50, but I'm happy with how it turned out. And just for fun, I took it to the kilometer drag strip at the festival, and I tuned the final drive to make it longer just so it would perform better here. And this was my result. The drag tune alone didn't feel like a great display of all the cool customization this game has. So I decided to try one more quick thing for fun and created a drift tune. To do this, I switched the drivetrain to rear-wheel drive and made the tire grip lower. In the first test before tuning, the rear of the car was kicking out by itself, but it didn't hold any stable drift and just spun out. For the first tune, I fixed that by improving turning responsiveness and stability, and I also locked the rear differential. Immediately, it was a lot better. The car could hold a stable drift. It still felt a little hard to control, so I went in to do a few more tweaks. It felt a little too grippy, so I tried to lower that a bit, and I made further stability improvements. Doing all of this was surprisingly easy. It isn't a drift beast or anything, but considering this was my first time doing a drift tune, it seemed pretty solid. This silly little car, which started with 60 horsepower, became a powerful drag racing car. And it's pretty easy to turn into a drift car. I'm sure my tunes weren't perfect and there's some room for improvement, but regardless, they showcase some of the cool things you can do in Forza Horizon 6. If you enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing. It means a lot. And with that, thank you for watching.